Welcome to my channel.
I am Lisa.
And I am Eric. If you improve your English, this podcast is perfect for you.
So let's get started and make English learning easy. What are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is arrogant. Then we will continue with crucial and to confront. Then mark my words. And the final one is last but not least.
Let's start with the first word.
The first word is arrogant.
Arrogant.
Arrogant. Okay, let's explain what arrogant means. Arrogant is an adjective that describes someone who thinks they are better or more important than other people. It means being too proud of yourself and looking down on other people. For example, the arrogant manager never listened to his employees' ideas.
It means that the manager thought he was always right and didn't value the opinions of the people working for him because he believed he was better than them.
Exactly. Now, Lisa, can you give us another example?
Sure. Here's my example. Sarah's arrogant behavior made it difficult for her to make friends at her new school.
Great one. It means that Sarah acted like she was better than others, which made people not want to be friends with her at her new school.
Good point, Eric. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using our word arrogant.
Hey, Anna. Did you meet the new student in our class?
Yes, I did. To be honest, I think he's a bit arrogant. He keeps talking about how smart he is and how his old school was much better than ours.
I see. That does sound arrogant. Maybe he's just nervous about being the new kid?
Maybe, but being arrogant isn't a good way to make friends.
You're right. Let's try to be friendly anyway.
That was a great dialogue. Anna and Tom used the word arrogant several times to talk about the new student's behavior.
Yes, they did. Eric, have you ever met someone who was arrogant?
Yes, I have. I once had a classmate who was very arrogant about his grades and always bragged about them.
That must have been annoying. How did you deal with it?
I tried to be kind to him, but I also didn't let his arrogant behavior bother me.
That sounds difficult. Eric, do you think it is possible to be confident without being arrogant?
I think it is. Confident people can still be kind and respectful to others. Arrogant people often forget to be kind.
That's a great way to look at it. I agree with you. Well, that's all we have time for with our word arrogant. Let's move on to our next word.
The next word is crucial.
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 Okay, let's explain what crucial means. Crucial is an adjective. It means that something is essential or critical for success or to make something happen. It is stronger than important.
For example, getting enough sleep is crucial for good health. This means that sleeping enough is very important and necessary for health.
Good example. This is mine. Communication is crucial in any relationship. It means that being able to talk and listen to each other is very important and necessary for a good relationship.
Now, let's talk about how to use this word. Crucial is an adjective, so we use it to describe nouns. We often say something is crucial or plays a crucial role.
Good point, Eric. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using our word crucial.
Okay, class, let's talk about our group project. What do you think is crucial for its success?
I think good teamwork is crucial, Ms. Johnson.
Excellent point. Teamwork is indeed crucial. What else?
Time management is also crucial. We need to finish on time.
You're absolutely right. Both teamwork and time management play crucial roles in completing a successful group project.
That was a great dialogue.
Yes, it is. I liked it.
Now, Eric, let's talk about what is crucial for learning English. What do you think?
That's a great topic. I think it's crucial to study every day. Even if you only study for a short time each day, it helps to keep your mind active and improves your skills.
I completely agree. Daily practice is really important. I also think it's crucial to listen to English as much as possible. Listening helps you understand how the language sounds and improves your pronunciation.
Absolutely. Listening is key. It is also crucial to read frequently about the topics you enjoy. It increases your vocabulary.
That's a great point, Eric. So, to our listeners, remember that practicing daily, listening to English, and reading about the topic you are interested in are all crucial to learning English.
Those are great points, Lisa. Well, that's all we have time for with our word crucial. Let's move on to our next word. The next word is to confront.
To confront.
To confront. To confront means to face someone or something, especially when it's difficult. For example, you might confront a friend if they've hurt your feelings, or you might confront a problem that you've been avoiding.
Yes, exactly. It usually means you are dealing with a situation directly, even if it's uncomfortable or hard. Now, let's give some examples to help explain. I'll start with the first one.
Sure, go ahead.
Here's the first example. Sarah decided to confront her fear of speaking in public. It means that Sarah had to face her fear of talking in front of many people, but now she has made a decision to deal with it.
That's a good example, Lisa. Now, here's the second example. John decided to confront his boss about his work schedule. It means that John chose to talk to his boss about his work hours. He might have been unhappy or felt it was unfair, so he decided to address the issue directly.
Great explanation, Eric. It's important to note that to confront is often followed by the thing or person. For example, confront his boss or confront the problem. Now, let's use the word in a short dialogue so our listeners can hear how it's used in conversation.
Ben, I think you need to confront Mr. Smith about how he talks to you. It's not fair.
You're right, Amy. I've been avoiding it, but I need to confront the problem and tell him how I feel.
In this dialogue, Amy is telling Ben that he should talk to Mr. Smith directly about the way he's being treated. Ben agrees that he needs to do this.
Yes, and Ben is admitting that he has been avoiding the situation, but now feels he must deal with it. That's what confront means in this context.
Is it always a good idea to confront someone when there's a problem? What do you think?
That's a good question, Lisa. I think it depends on the situation. Sometimes confronting someone can solve the problem because it also might bring it out into the open. But other times, it might be better to think about how to approach it carefully.
I agree. It's crucial to think about how you confront someone. It's important to be calm and respectful so the conversation doesn't turn into an argument.
Exactly. And sometimes it helps to plan what you're going to say before you confront someone. That way, you can stay focused on the issue without getting too emotional.
That's a great tip, Eric. So, to our listeners, remember that to confront means to face a challenge or a person directly. But always think carefully about how you do it.
Yes, confronting a problem or a person can be important, but doing it in a thoughtful way can make a big difference.
I agree. Okay, Eric, let's move on to the next word.
The next word is mark my words.
Mark my words.
Mark my words.
Mark my words is an idiom we use when we want someone to pay attention to what we're saying because it's important, and usually what we say will happen in the future.
Exactly. When you say, mark my words, When you tell someone to remember something, it's because you believe it will happen, like saying, "I'm sure of this." For example, mark my words, that relationship won't last. It means that the speaker is sure that the relationship will end soon.
That's a good example, Eric. Now, here's the second example. Mark my words, he will be late to the meeting. It means that the speaker is quite sure that the person will be late to the meeting and wants the listener to remember this prediction.
Great explanation, Lisa. One thing to note is that this phrase is always used to make a prediction. It's like telling someone to pay attention because you know what's going to happen.
Yes. Now, let's use the phrase in a short dialogue so our listeners can hear how it's used in conversation.
Emily, mark my words, this movie is going to win an award.
Really? You think so?
Yes, mark my words. The story is so good, and the acting is amazing. It's going to win something for sure.
In this dialogue, Jake is very confident that the movie will win an award because he believes it will come true. Eric, do you think it's common to use mark my words in everyday conversation?
It's not something people say all the time, but you might hear it when someone feels strongly about something they believe will happen. It's a way to say, "I'm really sure about this."
That's true. Have you ever used mark my words with someone?
I have. I once told my friend, "Mark my words, you're going to love that new restaurant." And guess what? They did.
That's a good example. It shows how mark my words can be used in different situations, not just serious ones, but even when you're sure about something like a restaurant or a movie.
Absolutely. It's a useful phrase to learn, especially when you want to make a strong point about something you're sure of.
So true. I hope our listeners now feel more comfortable using mark my words in their conversations. Okay, what is the last word of today?
The last word is last but not least.
Last but not least.
Last but not least.
Nice choice. Last but not least is an idiom we use when we want to introduce the final thing in a list and show that it's still very important, even though it's the last one.
Exactly. When you say last but not least, you're telling the listener that the last item is as important as the others. For example, I'd like to thank my parents, my teachers, and last but not least, my friends. It means that the speaker is grateful to all the people mentioned, and even though his friends are mentioned last, they are just as important as the others.
That's a good example, Eric. Now, here's the second example. We invited many guests to our party, my cousins, my coworkers, and last but not least, my best friend. It means that the speaker wants to highlight his best friend, making sure everyone knows that. Although his friend was mentioned last, they are very important.
Great explanation, Lisa. This phrase is often used when giving speeches, making presentations, or writing lists. It's a polite way to make sure the final item is given special attention.
Now, let's use the phrase in a short dialogue so our listeners can hear how it's used in conversation.
We have a great team. First, there's Sarah, who is amazing at organizing events.
Yes, and we also have Mark, who is fantastic with numbers.
And last but not least, we have Jane, who always brings creative ideas to the table.
Exactly. Jane's ideas are always so fresh and interesting. Our team wouldn't be the same without her.
In this dialogue, Alice ensures that Jane is recognized as important, even though she is mentioned last in the list.
Yes, and Ben agrees, pointing out that Jane deserves attention even though she is mentioned last.
Eric, do you think this phrase is only used in formal situations?
Not at all. While it's common in formal settings like speeches or presentations, You can also use it in everyday conversations as well. Anytime you want to list things or people and make sure the last one isn't overlooked, you can use last but not least.
That's true. I've even used it when I'm talking about my favorite things, like when I'm listing my favorite movies or books. It helps me make sure the last one doesn't seem less important.
That's a great point, Lisa. Okay, I think we have reached the end of today's episode.
Yes, Eric, thank you for listening to Simply Explained English. We hope you learned something new today.
Don't forget to subscribe and like our videos. See you next time.
Bye-bye. I am Lisa.
And I am Eric. If you improve your English, this podcast is perfect for you.
So grab a snack, sit back, and let's dive into today's words. Okay, what are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is compliance. Then we will continue with extravagant and crush. Then a long face. And the final one is be out of one's league.
Let's start with the first word, Eric.
The first word is compliance.
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 That's an interesting word. So, what does compliance mean?
Compliance means following rules or doing what you are asked to do.
Yes, that's right. And we often use compliance with the preposition with. So we say compliance with the rules or compliance with instructions.
Exactly. Now, let's give some example sentences to help our listeners understand it better. For example, the company faced a fine because safety rules were not in compliance with safety regulations. This means that the company didn't follow the safety rules, so it had to pay money as a punishment.
Good example. Here's another one. Students must show compliance with the school dress code. It means that students need to follow the rules about what clothes they can wear to school.
Now, let's have a sample dialogue to show how we might use this word in a conversation.
Sarah, have you checked if our new product is in compliance with the health and safety standards?
Yes, I have. I've gone through all the regulations, and I'm happy to report that we're in full compliance.
That's excellent news. Compliance is very important for our business.
That was a good use of compliance in a work setting, Eric.
Yes, it's a common word in professional environments.
So, Eric, can you think of any everyday situations where we might use the word compliance?
Well, we might talk about compliance with traffic laws when driving. For example, the police officer stopped cars to check for compliance with seatbelt laws.
That's a good example. I can think of another one. Parents often talk about their children's compliance with house rules.
Good example.
It's interesting how a word that sounds quite formal can be used in simple everyday situations, too.
I agree.
Well, I think we've covered compliance pretty well. Shall we move on to our next word?
Yes, let's do that. We've got a few more words to explain today. The next word is extravagant.
Extravagant.
Extravagant is an adjective that describes something that is very expensive, fancy, or more than what is necessary or normal. It often refers to spending a lot of money or using too much of something.
That's right, Eric. Now, let me give an example sentence. The wedding was very extravagant, with thousands of flowers and a 7-tier cake. It means that the wedding was very fancy and expensive, with a lot more decorations and food than usual.
Good example, Lisa. Here's my example. His extravagant lifestyle includes owning 3 sports cars and a private jet. It means that his way of living is very expensive and involves spending a lot of money on luxury items that most people don't have.
Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using our word extravagant.
Hey, John, did you hear about the new restaurant downtown?
No, I haven't. What's it like?
It's really extravagant. The menus are made of gold and they serve food on diamond-encrusted plates.
Wow, that does sound extravagant. It must be very expensive to eat there.
It is. A simple salad costs $100. Can you imagine? It's completely extravagant.
That was a great dialogue. Eric, have you ever been to an extravagant restaurant?
No, I haven't. I usually eat at simple places. How about you, Lisa?
Once for a special birthday. It was nice, but very expensive. Do you think it's good to be extravagant sometimes?
That's a good question. I think it's okay for special occasions, but not very often.
I agree. Being extravagant all the time is a waste of money.
Exactly. And I think having what you need is more important than having extravagant things. Once I bought a very expensive watch. It was too extravagant, and I felt bad about spending so much money. How about you?
I once bought extravagant shoes that I never wear because they're not comfortable. I learned that practical is often better than extravagant.
That's a good lesson. I hope our listeners understand extravagant things can be exciting, but they're not always necessary or practical.
Well, that's all we have time for with our word extravagant. Let's move on to our next word.
The next word is crush.
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 Oh, that's an interesting one. Crush has a few different meanings in English. One meaning is when something is pressed so hard that it becomes damaged or broken. For example, you might crush a can under your foot. The second meaning is when you really like someone in a romantic way.
Exactly. So, crush can be both a physical action and a way to describe a strong, romantic feeling for someone, especially when you like them, but they might not know it.
Right. Now, let's give some examples to help explain both meanings. Here's the first example. Be careful with the box or you'll crush the cookies inside. It means that if you press too hard on the box, the cookies will break or get damaged.
That's a good example, Lisa. Here's the second example. Emily has a crush on her classmate, Jake. It means that Emily likes Jake in a romantic way, but Jake might not know about it.
Great explanation, Eric. And it's important to know that when we talk about having a crush on someone, we usually use the preposition on. For example, have a crush on someone.
That's right. And now, let's use crush in a short dialogue.
Mia, guess what? I think I have a crush on Rosa.
Really? That's exciting. But remember, when you see her, don't crush the flowers you bought for her in your excitement.
Good point. I'll be careful with them. I will not let anything crush my dreams.
Nice dialogue. In this dialogue, Alex tells Mia that he has romantic feelings for Rosa. That's what it means when he says he has a crush on Rosa.
And Mia makes a little joke by using the other meaning of crush. She tells Alex not to press too hard on the flowers and damage them accidentally. It shows how crush can be used in different ways in a conversation.
Eric, do you think it's common for people to talk about their crushes?
Definitely. Especially among younger people, it's common to talk about who you have a crush on.
That's true. Eric, do you remember your first crush?
I do. I had a crush on a girl in my class when I was about 11 years old. I was too shy to tell her, but I remember feeling very excited every time I saw her.
That's a sweet story. I think everyone has a similar experience, and it's nice to look back on those memories.
I agree. So, to all our listeners, remember the different meanings of crush. Whether you're talking about your feelings or something you don't want to damage, crush is a useful word to know.
Okay, Eric, let's move on to the next word.
The next word is a long face.
A long face.
A long face.
Okay, let's explain what a long face means. It's an idiom that describes someone who looks sad, unhappy, or disappointed. The expression shows that they are upset. For example, John had a long face when he found out he didn't get the job. It means that John looked sad or disappointed when he learned he didn't get the job he wanted.
Here's my example. Why the long face? Did something bad happen? It means that the speaker is asking why the other person looks sad or unhappy.
Now let's talk about how to use this phrase. A long face is usually used with verbs like have, wear, or pull. For example, we can say, he has a long face, or don't pull such a long face.
That's right. We often use it in questions too, like, why the long face? To ask someone why they look sad.
Good point, Eric. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue using our phrase, a long face.
Hi, sweetie, I'm home. Oh, why the long face?
Hi, Mom. I got a bad grade on my math test today.
I see. That's why you have such a long face. Don't worry, we can work on improving your math skills together.
Really? You're not angry?
Of course not. Everyone has bad days sometimes. There's no need to keep that long face. Let's make a study plan, instead of pulling such a long face.
That was a great dialogue. The mom and daughter used our phrase a long face several times to talk about the daughter's sad expression.
Yes, they did. Eric, do you have a long face about something?
Yes, I do sometimes. Last week, I had a long face because I lost my favorite book. How about you, Lisa?
I sometimes have a long face when it rains on my day off. Is it okay to show a long face, Eric?
That's a good question. I think it's normal to show how we feel, but we shouldn't always have a long face.
I agree. It's okay to look sad sometimes, but we should try to be positive too. How do you cheer yourself up when you have a long face?
I like to talk to friends or watch funny videos. What about you?
I enjoy going for a walk or listening to happy music. It helps me stop having a long face.
Additionally, sometimes people want to talk about why they're sad, and sometimes they don't. It's good to be kind when we see someone with a long face.
That's true. Well, that's all we have time for with our phrase, a long face. Let's move on to our last word of today.
The last word is be out of one's league.
Be out of one's league.
Be out of one's league is an idiom we use when we think someone or something is too good for us. It can be about people, like when someone is much more attractive or successful than us, or about things, like a job or a situation that we feel is too difficult.
Good explanation, Eric. When you say someone is out of your league, it means you feel they are better than you in some way. Maybe because they are more attractive, more skilled, or more successful.
Right. It's often used in a romantic context, like when you like someone but you think they are too good for you. Additionally, it can also be used in other situations, like when a job or a task seems too challenging. Let me give an example to make this clearer. Tom likes Jessica, but he thinks she's out of his league. It means that Tom likes Jessica, but he feels she is too attractive or popular for him to date.
That's a good example, Eric. Now, here's the second example. I wanted to apply for the manager position, but I felt it was out of my league. It means the speaker thought the job was too difficult or required more experience than they had.
Great explanation, Lisa. So, as we can see, out of one's league can be used to describe both people and situations.
Yes, and it's important to note that this idiom is often about self-perception.
That's true. Now, let's use out of one's league in a short dialogue so our listeners can hear how it's used in conversation.
Mike, why don't you ask Sarah out? You've liked her for a long time.
I don't know, Anna. I feel like She's out of my league.
Don't say that. You're a great guy, and you never know until you try.
Maybe you're right. I'll think about it.
In this dialogue, Mike feels that Sarah is out of his league, meaning he thinks she's too good for him, but Anna encourages him to give it a try anyway.
Yes, and this shows how out of one's league can sometimes be about how we see ourselves, not about the actual situation.
Exactly. It's a common feeling, especially when it comes to dating or going for a challenging job.
Eric, do you think it's important to try even if we feel something is out of our league?
Definitely. Sometimes we underestimate ourselves. You might find out that the person or job isn't really out of your league after all.
That's a great point. We shouldn't let our fears stop us from going after what we want, even if we feel it's out of our league.
Absolutely. So to all our listeners, remember that out of your league is just a feeling. It's always worth trying because you might surprise yourself.
That's a great point, Eric. Okay, I think we have reached the end of today's episode.
Yes, Lisa. Thank you for listening to Simply Explained English. We hope you learned something new today.
Don't forget to subscribe and like our videos. See you next time.
Bye-bye.